Okay, I have the distinct privilege of introducing our next speaker. She has led the pack through multiple book discussions. I'm reading this because I don't want to leave any details out. Challenging each of us to be as authentic and as focused on our mission as she is. And when I say our mission, I mean Broad River's mission. And this is only one facet of her role here at Broad River. She's one of the most committed leaders I've had the pleasure to work with, and I am so glad that purpose is the common connection that has brought us together. She's a wife and a mom to two awesome young boys and makes it all look easy. Please jump to your feet and join me in welcoming Broad River memory maker, Heather Greenwood.
Presentation was not going to be crying before I presented to you all, so that threw me for a little bit of a loop. So I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I've heard such great feedback, and more than anything, that's what we want from today, is for you to truly understand and feel purpose, your personal purpose, and how that works with our purpose here at Broad River. So as a member of the Purpose Activation Committee, we have gotten to know imperative, and you've gotten to know a little bit about imperative through doing your purpose profile assessment. And some of you, I see that you have them here with you today. Zach asked about it a little bit earlier. You have your drivers on your lanyard, so we will reference those later today. But I have the distinct honor to be here today to tell you everything about this amazing platform and how we're going to use it going forward. Because this just isn't a one-hit wonder or something that we're going to use once and we're not going to talk about it again. We're going to continue to go deeper with imperative and how it can help you really connect your personal purpose to what we do here every day in furnishing life's best memories. So, as you see here, it's a little bit about what we're going to explore and where we're going to go today and what we know happens. So we're looking for a happy marriage, if you will, to bring two things together to overlap. So we have our organizational purpose, furnishing life's best memories, and then our own personal drivers. What brings you purpose and ultimately fulfillment? When we marry those two things, that will give us the most fulfillment, both personally and here at Broad River, which makes us a better, happier, more purposeful person. And that's kind of what we're looking to achieve here today. So this is the journey I'm going to take you through. So what we're going to go through, and Lindsay, if you go to my next slide, please, is imperative. What is it? And I couldn't stand up here today and not teach you a little bit about imperative. And you've heard a lot about this over the past few months, starting at Orange Crush 3, and you learned a lot of this from Charlie. So this face is not a new face. Many of you have seen Aaron Hurst in videos that we've sent or throughout the Orange Crush 3 tour. So I want to give you a little bit of a history, if you will, on what this looks like. So Imperative is actually the second company created by CEO Aaron Hurst, who you see there. His first company was the Taproot Foundation, which connected professionals to volunteer opportunities. And early on, he heard people talking about these experiences and really zoning in on they're enjoying and feeling more fulfilled in these volunteer opportunities than in their full-time jobs, where they're spending most of their life, as we learned earlier today. So we thought, how can we make all work feel that fulfilling? How can we make our regular job feel just as fulfilling as what we do, maybe in our free time or volunteer work that we do? So he took in all this data from various volunteers to really collect upon what does fulfillment mean and how can we find it in the workplace? So we've talked a lot about the purpose economy, and Charlie has shared a lot from this over the past several months and how it's led us on our own journey. As Imperative launched the very first purpose profile assessment, which you all took, that was step one, and now as they grow and they continue, they go through this journey of peer-to-peer coaching, which we're going to explore today in our time with you all. So you'll see over the past few years, Imperative has really sunk in to make sure that they're collecting the right data to ultimately help people define what their purpose means personally and how they can connect that to work. So we've spent a lot of time digging in on this in the Purpose Activation Committee, and in 2019, Imperative launched their Workforce Purpose Index, which really told them that people want to learn how to translate purpose into work. But it's not as easy as just coming up with a manual and giving it out. How can we help people, again, to reach fulfillment? So, true or false? Jacob, will you read this question for me nice and loud for the team?
If you work for a company that has a stated purpose, you feel more fulfilled at work.
True or false? True. Okay. So, Jason Sessoms is shaking his head. Something about that does not seem right to Jason. He's pretty convinced in that answer. So it's not what you think. We're here today because Broad River and our leadership team has taken an enormous step by defining and inspiring organizational purpose. But until we all forge our own connection to that purpose, it is something imposed on us versus something we own and which we draw inspiration. So we all need to come together on this purpose and be able to see how it impacts all of us to make furnishing life's best memories more than a slogan on the wall, but something that means something deep at the root of our fulfillment and who we are. So I want to share with you guys a couple myths of purpose. And there's 3 different myths, and these are pretty common, and Zach mentioned them earlier, and we heard them more from the pack a little bit. So the first myth is that purpose is a cause. So the myth that would mean that we could all transition to a teaching role or healthcare or a nonprofit, and that right there would immediately give us purpose. We feel fulfilled. We're done, we've done the work, and we feel purpose. Research on fulfillment across professions shows that this is really false. Levels of fulfillment do not show dramatic changes across professions. It can be achieved anywhere. The second myth is that purpose is a revelation, that it's a moment. You climb to the top of a mountain, you have that moment, and the light bulb goes off and you found your purpose. Again, not necessarily what happens or one moment. And the final myth, and we've heard this before, is that purpose is a luxury. That purpose is something that can only be found if you have the right amount of money or the resources or the support to do it, which is also not true. All of us have purpose, and all of us can find our purpose no matter what our status is, where we work, what we do, how much money we have. We all have the ability to do that. So I want to show you a slide that shares with you some commonalities amongst people who have purpose. So people who find fulfillment at work have 3 things in common. People who report high levels of fulfillment in the work that they do agree or strongly agree to the following things. So the first one is relationships. They would say that they have meaningful relationships with colleagues. I know for me, speaking personally, this is really important to what I do here, and part of the reason that makes me feel so connected to this purpose, the relationships that I have and the people that I work with every day. Number 2 is impact. They believe that they're making an impact no matter that matters to me. So I feel like I'm making a difference, and that brings me fulfillment, whether it be on one person, the organization, or the society, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And the last one is growth. I regularly have opportunities to learn new skills and gain new experiences at work. People want to grow. We crave knowledge. We want to get better. We don't want to stay with the status quo. So growth. And when these 3 things work together, they're going to provide you the fulfillment that you're looking for in what you do every day at work. Good? Okay, let's continue. So we need to understand where these develop into impact drivers, into our purpose drivers, which you explored during your assessment, and you see right here on your lanyard. So there are 3 different drivers that you could look at there, and it'll show you impact, values, and craft. And you have one of each. So the first step to your fulfillment at work is self-awareness about what you really find fulfilling. So imperative research found that each one of us has these 3 different dimensions. Today, we're going to focus in on the first, which is impact. So that's our first driver, and we're going to talk about this and break this down a little bit over our time together and into our peer-to-peer coaching. So your impact driver determines the level of impact that you want to have. So there are 3 different choices here. So let's go to the next slide, and we're going to dig in here on what this looks like. So here you'll see individual, organizational, or societal. And we're going to start with individual impact. So raise your hand if your driver is individual impact, right here on your first one. Okay, a lot of hands in our room. Individual impact. So what does that mean? We're motivated to help individual people become the best version of themselves. So these people are people who are going to focus on that real one-to-one connection. So on our Purpose Activation Committee, Renee falls into this category, and when Renee shared this with us as a team and she went through this, she said, absolutely, this is how she feels like she can make an impact on an individual level with her team, with her family, and what those conversations look like. Next slide. So, if you are an individual impact driver, your core belief is that change begins with the individual. They seek to improve people's lives by directly meeting their needs. If this is you, does this sound familiar? Yeah, okay, probably not a lot of surprises there, individual. So the next would be organizational impact. So raise your hand if you're an organizational impact. So am I. And I think I got like some duplicate hands, so we have a couple things going on here. So organizational impact means that you are motivated to help teams and organizations achieve lasting, scalable impact. So a little bit bigger picture, thinking about it as an organization. So some members on the pack who fall into this category, Charlie has an organizational impact driver here. So if we go on to look at a little bit what this looks like, it would say that they see organizations as the building block of strong and sustainable society. They believe that by enabling an organization, group, or community to succeed, they are able to reach more people. So on a bigger scale, maybe within our stores, within our organization, again, a little bit bigger. The third that we'll key in on, and we'll talk a little bit more about, is societal. So we have individual, organizational, and societal. Raise your hand if this is you. A little bit fewer. Okay? So Lynn shared this earlier, that this is where she falls with her purpose driver, and that was really a surprise to her in doing this. So these people are inspired when they see their work connected to broader trends and changes in the field and society. So a little bit bigger of a picture, and I know for Lynn, this was very eye-opening, thinking, I think that I'm one thing, and then going through this assessment and seeing something very different. And later, through her peer-to-peer coaching, she saw where this really came into life. So if we look a little bit deeper on societal impact, they believe we need to change the game to address the scale of challenges and opportunities. Even a small change at a systematic level has a massive impact on the world. So this gives you a little bit of view of what these 3 impact drivers mean. And each one of you fell into one of these categories. This help you understand it a little bit better? When you go through your purpose profile that you took and you print that out, it will explain how this breaks it down to you, and we're going to use that in the next session of what we're going to do here in a few minutes together. So what we're going to do, if you go to the next slide please, is we're going to do some peer-to-peer coaching. And what I want to spend is a few minutes on what exactly this is. It sounds a little bit scary. A lot of people ask me at lunch, what is this and what are we doing? But it will be okay, I promise. So, in your folders, I need you to pull this out. It's on the right-hand side, because you're going to need this over the next little bit that we spend together today. So, you've taken your purpose profile assessment. You know a little bit more about your personal purpose. You know a little bit about what those drivers look like. And what's most important about these is not what it says on paper and then what we tuck away, but the conversations that we have in utilizing these. So what you're going to do in a few minutes is you guys are going to pick a partner. And what I would highly recommend is that this is not somebody that you work with on a daily basis, not somebody in your department, but maybe somebody that you haven't had an opportunity to work with. These conversations work best when it's somebody that you're getting to know. You might feel a little bit uncomfortable with, you might be a little bit vulnerable with. So my very first peer-to-peer coaching conversation was with Charlie Maloof. Thank you. I was very scared, very scared. But it was a great opportunity to get to know Charlie better and to get to share some things with him that really evolved into a great conversation. And that experience for me provided a lot in me understanding my purpose and what these drivers meant. So that's what I'd like to offer to you guys today. So think outside of the box. There's a lot of people in this room. So when we dismiss from that room, you and your partner are going to find a place where you can talk somewhere in the building. So spread out, get somewhere. All you're going to take is this paper and a pen. And what you guys are going to do is you're going to have a conversation. And this conversation is very fluid. It's going to be a lot of questions and digging deeper. I want you to think about, tell me more. Great. What do you remember about that experience? Tell me more. You're going to ask your partner to really paint a picture for you. So you guys are going to have to go deep with each other. Tina's giving me scared eyes. So I'm going to walk you through what this looks like. So on the front of your paper, there are 4 questions, discussion questions. This tees it up for you. This gives you really great groundwork. So the first question is, find your impact driver at the end of this document and read the description paragraph. What parts are most meaningful for you? So if Jacob's my partner, I'm going to ask him that. And you'll see here there's tips. So Jacob will share with me, and then I'm going to ask my partner to explain the why behind their answers until you fully understand. If Jacob says, well, Heather, this is important to me because I like this line right here, and I say, okay, my turn. Not the object here, right? So I want you guys to focus on the quality of the conversation. This conversation really involves being truthful, being honest, being a little bit vulnerable, and we've done this before. None of us in this room are afraid to do this. We've been there. So once we go through this and Jacob answers the question, and I'm going to kind of pull some things from him and get him talking, then he's going to come back and he's going to ask me the same question. You're going to continue through these 4 questions. And so again, it's not about getting the 4 questions done, it's about having a meaningful conversation. The tips on the side of this sheet are really helpful in what that looks like to pull things out and just not have answer, question, answer, question. Good? As you go through this series of questions, it's going to really help you to understand your impact driver a little bit more and how that connects to what you do and how that connects with our purpose here at Broad River. Are there any questions? As you're going through this, you're going to want to take really great notes on what this looks like, because when we come back, we're going to leave some time to discuss and share some takeaways from those conversations. So what I'm going to give you is an hour. So an hour, leave some travel time in there to find a space, bring your sheet, bring your paper, and start having that dialogue, and then we're going to come back and discuss some takeaways in the hour. Chelsea. Correct.
The question was,
Oh, I didn't know where you're coming from, Lynn.
sorry.
The question was just the 4 questions on the front page or the next. So right now, you guys, I just want to focus on you guys getting through those first 4. Some of these takeaways we're going to do following today. Any other questions? Charlie?
Can you, at some point, this will not be done on pen and paper?
Correct.
Is it, are you going to tell them about that later, or is
Yep,
that mentioned?
when we come back.
All right.
Yep. Okay.
Heather, do we want to tell them that the war rooms are most likely open? So if you and your partner want to go to a war room, or we want to take a couple pairs to the merchandising war room. I think those are available.
Yep, so spread out, you guys. You'll want to try and find a place where you two can have a conversation. It doesn't necessarily need to be an office or a locked room, but somewhere that you can sit together. The pack will also be out and about, so we'll touch base. If you guys have questions, feel free to stop any of us, okay?
What time do you want us back here?
So we're going to be back in 1 hour, which is 3:10. Welcome back, you guys. Okay, so, you ready? Okay, so we did some peer-to-peer coaching there for a few minutes, and I know I had the opportunity to spend some time with some of you a little bit on what you learned, so I want to hear from you. So I have Andrea and I have Lynn, and they have some mics, and I want to hear about your takeaways and your experience that you had in talking to your peer. So I'm going to need some volunteers. Otherwise, I'm going to call on you. I know, curveball. Okay, Kim in the back. Kim, what do you have for us?
Here you go, Kim.
Yes. I'm changing my mind. Well, Courtney and I talked, and I am an individual, and she was a organization. So it was nice to hear that even though mine's more one-on-one, and which makes sense because I'm in a store with a bunch of individuals, and I'm here to train each of them individually because we're all different. And with her, she's more broad spectrum. How her impact also directly impacts me. You know, with the store when she's building a training document to train her visual to do quicker and better and to make their stores look beautiful, that impacts us as salespeople and as management because our store looks good. It's one less thing we have to fight. We're the beautiful store on the street, and her training her people and also having almost like a booklet to help her people long term for the corporate also helps us individually. Which impacts us too. And that's nice to know that you guys are kind of working hand in hand with us without us even knowing, and people don't think for a second like how impactful that is, that something that small is that broad for us. So.
Okay, great job, Kim. Nice job, Courtney. Okay, who else? Tell me about the insights that you gained from this conversation.
Yes. Josh?
Josh?
Can you stand up, please?
I sure will stand up.
I'm sorry, I stepped on your toe.
So I worked with Pam. So she was individual and I was organizational. And really just when you see someone talking about purpose or what their driver is and the excitement that they get from talking about that driver. So Pam was talking about individuals and how she likes to impact that specific individual, or the time she gets to get involved with someone one-on-one or making a difference in that one person. And just the excitement that she had on her face from talking about her associate, I'll use the name Kevin, right? And how she was talking about him and the fact that he hit his first written bonus last month, and then this month he wrote 100,000, and the fact that he came to her and was asking for help to do more things, and she could demonstrate and show behaviors or actions that she could directly impact him. To him giving her a big hug and saying, like, you're helping me make money that I didn't know I could make. Is there anything I can do for you? And she's like, no, like, it truly is the excitement you have right now on your face and you achieving your goals that gets me excited, gets me revved up. And her even telling me that story got her excited and revved up telling that story. So you can see where the driver comes into the passion and the purpose.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Pam. One more. Someone else share those insights that they took from this conversation today. Maybe somebody outside of retail. I know, maybe somebody from this side of the room. Yeah. Buddy, you want to share? Here, let us get you a mic. You know, I mean, Dee was going to jump in there, I think. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Buddy,
You could both do it.
we got a code, buddy.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll talk all about Tim today.
Okay, let's hear it.
So we had a great conversation, and it's kind of like what we just heard a little bit earlier. He is more driven by individuals. I'm a little more on the organizational side, and it was just amazing to see his eyes, his face light up when he started talking about really concrete people, events, and things that he's been able to impact and change, and the joy that he gets from that. And that's just that's a great thing to see.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Okay. Did I get one more? Did I get one more?
D.
I don't know. You're getting put on the spot over here, Dolores.
Dolores, okay.
You want to share? Woo!
So Tina and I had a chance to get together, and we're both kind of a lot alike. So I think both of us fell underneath the organizational and how we like things in sync, and kind of trying to show others how to, get to where we all want to go, and I don't know, even just life experiences. So, and she was telling me how when she came here to Broad River, how PM actually impacted her, and or Renee, and how Renee actually impacted her, and it's just how others, kind of impact you, and you really see that, and how sometimes letting go of things, like she said that she likes to do things sometimes, and she has to acknowledge that in order for others to get on board or others to follow, like you have to let go of some things sometimes and let others do it and grow and develop from that.
Absolutely. Great example. Thank you for sharing, you guys. Awesome. So I want to ask you one more question. What action could you take to integrate this insight into your role on our team? How can you take this insight and make an impact? Who wants to take a stab at this? There's no right or wrong answer. Chelsea Miller.
Chelsea. Call on me for it. No, I don't want to do it.
Too late.
I think one of the things that I learned during my conversation with Alicia was that you have to really understand that everybody doesn't think just like you. And I think that's such an easy default for us because that's our natural reaction. And so I think we can take from this is we all have kind of the same positive goal in mind for our team, but how we get there is very different. And there's no right or wrong, but I think it's important for us to kind of open our mind up and ask that why or how do you want to get there, and not assume that just because how I feel some way is also what Heather's going to feel like, right? That's not always the case, and it most likely isn't the case. So I felt like that was really a great learning.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Chelsea. I appreciate that. Okay, so this is phase one. We had one conversation, kind of small conversation today to get our feet wet. And I know I walked into some rooms, I saw some tears, I got some good feedback as we were going. But this is just step one. And generally, this conversation is going to look a little bit different going forward. So today, we're in this room together. But tonight, we're going to go back to all different areas, different departments, different stores, and we're not able to connect like this every single day. So I want to show you what peer-to-peer coaching looks like in the next steps, because we're actually going to have 2 more peer-to-peer conversations between now and the end of the year. So you've all logged into Imperative, and that's where you took your assessment. So I want to show you this screenshot here. And this kind of roadmaps what peer-to-peer coaching will look like for you. So you can see right now, today we're in phase 1, which is the discover, followed by activate and lead. And we just completed the first conversation, develop your impact narrative. And this really talked about, again, that impact driver. We still have 2 more drivers that we haven't even talked about today that we're going to get into. So there's 2 follow-up conversations. Define your worldview and own your superpower. So these are conversations that we're going to have. So the next one you should be prepared to have, and don't worry, more is going to come to you. You don't need to write this down today, is we're going to have another conversation at the end of September, the second conversation. And you're going to be matched in the system with somebody different that you spoke to today. And you're going to go through this via video chat. So this is all set up through Imperative, and everyone on the pack has done this. So Lindsay and I did this, and although we sit in the same building, we were on video chat from different floors, and it was kind of cool. And what you do is if I'm chatting with Lindsay and I can see her and she can see me, we're having the conversation and we're also typing notes at the same time. So when you get ready to do this, we're going to send you some directions because we've tested this, we've played with it, we have some good feedback to help you guys along the way. And as you're sharing and you're typing those notes, Lindsay's talking to me, and I'm typing those questions, she can then at the end of that conversation see those notes that I took to help her get some takeaways and take some action from that conversation so that she leaves that conversation knowing her next step. So that's what the next conversation will look like via video. You will be paired with somebody completely different than you were paired with today. So that's coming at the end of September. What I would ask you guys to do when you go home from this today or tomorrow, when you get some time, is I do want you to flip to page 2 and answer the questions about your experience today. And this just helps you to really take a step back and think about it. So takeaways and action. What did you learn during this peer coaching conversation that inspired you? And what surprised you? And the action. Elaborate on some of the details from the second and third questions. Translate those details into 2 actions you can take to bring more of your impact driver into the work you are doing today. So again, for today and tomorrow, you're going to handwrite this. But going forward, it'll all be on the imperative platform. And so you can take those notes there. So after Lindsay and I's conversation, I wrote some action steps for myself. And I need to go back and hold myself accountable and have those future conversations about what actions I have taken. Sound good? Yes. Good? Are you guys excited about imperative? Okay. You guys, we're going through this together. There's a lot to learn from this tool and a lot it can provide for us. So as we learn, we're going to be sharing some insights with you, some tips, some tricks to make it really seamless. Today, you all in this room as leaders have imperative license. And in the future, we hope to bring this to all of our companies so they can all be involved in this process and further discuss their own purpose and how they can tie that back to Broad River and ultimately drive fulfillment. Sound good? Okay? Easy. Okay, cool. I love easy. Okay, any questions? No? You guys feel good? Okay.